So I hope you guys have read this particular thing. All right, you could also have paused it and you could have read it. All right. So now, when we talk about the further thing that was initiated at that point of time, it is going to be the poll tax. Okay. So here, what is going to be the poll tax? It was the tax that the ex-indentured and the indentured laborers paid. All right. So if I just read this up to you and explain it, so this time the movement was widened further to include the resistance to the poll tax of £3. Initially, that poll tax was £25. However, it was reduced to £3, which was imposed on all ex-indentured Indians with the aim of reducing immigration. So here what is going to happen is that the Britishers, I had told you, right, that after the contract was over, the indentured laborers could pay an amount and they could become a resident there, means they could be staying there. So here the Britishers had brought the poll tax. Now just keep in mind, with every initiative that the Britishers brought, each new section they are going to be participant in the movements against the Britishers. Like from the poll tax, there was the indentured laborers who now became participant against the Britishers, and they joined the movements under Gandhiji. So a general indentured laborer, they are going to earn somewhat of 30 to 40 paisa, okay, 30 to 40 paisa in 1 month. So nearly they earn somewhat around 3 to 4 or 5 rupees in a year. 3 to 4 or 5 rupees in a year, 1 year. And let us here I am not telling pound, I am just telling you rupee. And let us also convert this 3 pounds into 3 rupee for better understanding. 3 rupees for better understanding, and this as 25 rupee for better understanding. So what the Britishers had done is that initially the Britishers were telling that if you want to become a resident of this country, you have to pay 25 rupees. But how much was the indentured laborer earning? And when the Britishers got to realize that, they understood that it was very much high, so they reduced it to 3 pounds. But yet the Indian laborer was earning only 20, 30 or 40 paisa in a month. That means in a year they earned around 2, 3, 4 or 5 rupees. And for example, if they earned 3 rupees in a year, they had to pay that 3 rupees to the British as a poll tax. But didn't they have their monthly expenses of groceries and everything? So what would they eat? And if they earned 5 rupees, that's okay, then they paid 3 rupees as a tax and 2 rupees they utilized for themselves. But the major category of the persons, they were not earning that much of money to pay this much amount. So that is why now the people were much more infuriated at this point of time, and here then there is going to be a movement that is going to be brought in. So then the inclusion of demand for abolition of this tax, a particular heavy charge on the poor laborers, immediately drew the indentured and the ex-indentured laborers into the struggle. And that is why making the Satyagraha a mass movement. And just after this, what happened is that the British court, okay, what is going to happen is that the Supreme Court, which was presided by the British judges, they are going to invalidate all the marriages that did not happen according to Christian customs and Christian rituals. So that means that all the people who resided in South Africa, their marriages, if they did not carry it out according to Christian rituals, all their marriages were bogus. Their marriages were not true. So here the question was that if the woman was not married to the man, yet on what principles were they living together? And if they are going to have children, then if their marriage was not true, then what of the children? What would be the name given to the children? So because of this, what happened is the respect of the woman, it deteriorated, and now the women were very much furious, and now the women participated in the movements. And here there was a very massive mass movement, and based on that the Britishers were defeated. Means in all of these activities that we are seeing that Gandhiji is going to do there, in all of those activities the Britishers were majorly defeated. And by the time period of 1814, all these activities are going to happen. So by the time period of 1814 and all the things that the Britishers were defeated in, At the end, the Britishers understood that we cannot now do much more oppression in South Africa. So then, and the end, what happened by the time period of 1813, 1814, the Britishers decided to create a particular, sorry, 1913, 1914, not 1813, 1814, 1913, 1914. Then the Britishers decide to create a committee, and that committee will look into all the issues that were prevalent in South Africa from the people's perspective, and the people would also tell them, and then they would take the initiatives of reform. So now by the time period of 1914, when Mahatma Gandhi, means Gandhiji, he was of the idea that he had taken a lot of steps in order to solve the situations. Now he was like, okay, now the things are done. At that point of time only, there was a letter which was provided to Gandhiji, and that letter came from Gopal Krishna Gokhale. In the letter, it was mentioned that Gandhiji, you have done a phenomenal job in South Africa. Similarly, similar are the situations in India. Why not you carry out such things in India as well? So Gandhiji, at that point of time, he is going to decide to come to India, and by the time period of 1815, January 1815, Gandhiji comes. 1915. 1915, Gandhiji, he comes to India. And when Gandhiji is going to come to India at that point of time, okay, after spending 20 years in South Africa, he had developed his own way of political activism, and he had tried and tested the method of Satyagraha, which was successful in South Africa. So when Gandhiji arrives in India, from that point of time, Gandhi's activism in India is going to be there. So that is a different topic, and we shall understand it in the next session. So here I would just like to mention that in the South Africa, what were the experiences that Gandhiji understood? So Gandhiji had understood that the masses, they had the immense capacity to put pressure on the Britishers and to get their demands fulfilled. Unlike the moderates were thinking in India that masses did not have the capacity, and the extremists thought that the masses had capacity, even Gandhiji, he thought that masses had capacity. Moreover, Gandhiji had also thought that Gandhiji had also learned this idea that we know that there are diverse religions, there are people belonging to diverse faith, but yet these people, in spite of belonging to diverse faith, they could unify, they could come together if they are given a cause. If they are given a greater cause, they would come together, sidelining the religious perspective. That was the thing he learned. Moreover, he also learned that it was the leaders who sometimes had to take unpopular decisions. For example, if Gandhiji, he was a person who wanted non-violence, means he was a person who wanted every activity to happen in non-violence, and he is carrying out a particular march. However, in that march, what happens is that a small violence activity happens, and because of that small violence activity, now Gandhiji is telling that we should cancel the march. But some people and the followers are telling no, we should continue the march. But Gandhiji is telling no, there was non-violence to be there, but there happened violence. The violence happened, and that is why we'll have to cancel it. But the people, the followers are telling no, why to cancel it, let's continue and up. So here he understood that it is not always the leaders have to follow the followers. The leaders shouldn't always listen to the demands of the followers. They would have to sometimes go against the followers, and that is what he had learned from here. From here he had evolved his own style of leadership and politics. After this, there were also principles of Satyagraha. That means, what was the Satyagraha that Gandhiji preached about? That Satyagraha would include truthfulness, non-violence, and fearlessness. Moreover, he told that Satyagraha can only be done by the strong. It cannot be done by the weak. Because Satyagraha, it included acceptance of suffering. That means that if one person is slapping you, give your ear this, keep on slapping, and I will not retaliate. It is resistance, and along with that resistance, I am not going to hate you. Even if you are slapping me, I am not going to hate you. Hatred is going to be alien to my nature. I am going to have love and respect for the evildoer also. Hatred would be alien to my nature. And also, I will not bow down. If you are beating me 2 times, it is not that I will not give you the third time. I will give you the third time also. I will not bow down to you because you are wrong. And I will keep on resisting you until you do not have a change of heart, until you do not change by yourself. I'm not going to bow down to it. So this was the principles that he had understood. Love for the evildoer, hatred would be alien to the Satyagrahi. Never bow before the evil, whatever be the consequences. And only brave and strong could practice it. This is what Gandhiji is going to tell in the context of the Satyagraha. These were the principles of Satyagraha. Alright, so that will be the Gandhi's activism in South Africa. In the next session, we shall look into Gandhi's activism in India. Okay, so that will be all for this session, and I shall see you up in the next session. Stay safe, guys. Study well. Thank you for watching me and Civils 360. Thank you, and Jai Hind, my dear friends.